أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله علي الذات عظيم الصفات سميع السمات كبير الشان جليل القدر رفيع الذكر مطاع الأمر جلي البرهان فخيم الاسم غزير العلم وسير الحكم كثير الغفران جميل الثناء جزيل العطاء مجيب الدعاء من الإحسان سريع الحساب شديد العقاب أليم العذاب عزيز السلطان ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون. صدق الله العظيم. فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. Respected brothers and sisters, the month of Ramadan has dawned upon us another year. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is not the only year when we witness another month of Ramadan, and may Allah grant us many more years to come when we can witness the month of Ramadan. This time of the year is the time where we can really gain and achieve what we are not able to achieve in the other 11 months of the year. The spiritual connection that we are able to establish with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is such a connection that it is hard for us to establish that in the other 11 months. The bond that we create with the Quran is such a unique bond that it is difficult to create that bond in the other 11 months. And this is the time where we need to create that sense of urgency within us that if I am not prepared for Ramadan, I need to do that today. Not tomorrow, but today. I need to start creating an atmosphere within my home about Ramadan. I need to start creating that. I need to mentally prepare myself about Ramadan. Start making a plan. Do not approach the month of Ramadan without making a plan. Make a realistic plan. Do not try to make a plan where you will change your life completely, but create a realistic goal for yourself, create a plan, and try to achieve your goals in the month of Ramadan. If we approach the month of Ramadan and there's no sense of urgency, we will stay hungry and thirsty throughout the day. We will pray at night, but the day of Eid will come, and guess what? We will be the same exact person as the month of Ramadan started. This sense of urgency needs to be created. We have 11 months. We had 11 months, and then you have this 1 month where time is precious. There is no time to think twice. All of you see, the World Cup is going on. All of you see the games are going on. When you look at a World Cup game, and something that you will see that is only very unique with soccer and football, is that time continues to go on. Whenever you see the ball goes out of bounds, time continues to go. If there's an injury on the pitch, time continues to go on. If they're standing up for a free kick, and when the referee is putting everyone and he takes this bottle out and he puts this line on the floor so that all the players have to stand behind that line, all that time that goes into setting up a free kick, the time continues to go on. If they're setting up for a penalty kick, time continues to go on. But then all this time that is accumulated when there is no football activity, the referee on the side, he's making a note of this and he's keeping track of time. And after 45 minutes on the TV screen, you see that the referee, he adds 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, which is called injury time, or which is called stoppage time. This stoppage time is the most crucial for the entire football game, the entire soccer game. The team that is winning, they're all defending so that they make sure that they don't concede a goal. On the other hand, the team that is losing, they're pushing all their players, even their defenders, their midfield players, they're all in the box. Why? So that we can score a goal, at least we can tie the game. There's a sense of urgency. Every single player, they have been playing for 90 minutes. They have been playing for 90 minutes, for the most part. They're not worried about how thirsty they are. They're not worried about how fatigued they are. They're not worried about how tired they are. They're not worried about what time it is, how many minutes left on stoppage time. They're just trying to push the ball forward and make sure that the ball is in the back of the net. That sense of urgency this is what I'm trying to talk about. The month of Ramadan is that stoppage time. We had 11 months, now we have 1 month. This is the time of the year where we say that, no matter how hot it's going to be, no matter how long the Taraweeh is going to be, no matter how much I have to go out of my way, but this is the time. This is the time where I don't care about anything else right now. The most important thing to me is building my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, creating that bond with the Quran, and that is the sense of urgency that we need to create. If I'm starting to think twice, should I go outside and talk and chit-chat with my friends, or should I come inside and pray Salat Taraweeh? It's a very easy, simple decision. You come inside and pray Salat Taraweeh. If you have the chance to sit down and play Candy Crush or read the Quran, the better option is to read the Quran. Don't think twice. Whatever can bring you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the time of the year. And we have seen people that they pass away one day before Ramadan, few hours before Ramadan. Life is unpredictable. So that's why, may Allah give us the ability to witness the entire month of Ramadan, and may Allah give us the ability to benefit from Ramadan also, and bring a change within our lives. But in regards to Ramadan, there's an aspect regarding Ramadan that I would like to touch upon, and that is that in Ramadan, that this sense of brotherhood and sisterhood and this unity in the community is established because everyone across the world, every single Muslim is fasting from dusk, from the break of dawn till sunset. Everyone is fasting. Everyone is following the same exact rules. And at night, everyone is standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they are dedicating and devoting themselves. So while this sense of, while we are staying hungry and while we're staying thirsty and this unity is created, and while we renew our iman and our faith and our commitment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the time of Ramadan is also a time to re-establish the bonds within the community also. Because generally when we approach Ramadan, we always hear about the Quran. It is the month of the Quran, and indeed it is the month of the Quran. There is no doubt about that. The month of Ramadan is a time where we need to spiritually, we need to enhance our spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's no doubt about that also. So we talk about spirituality, as the ayah I read earlier on, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. This is the month of Ramadan where the Quran was revealed. And this Quran is a clear guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyone who has built a real relationship with the Quran, he will be bestowed with the capacity and the ability to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. And this ability is called al-furqan. That you are able to do farq between batil and haq, between kufr and iman. What is considered as good company and what is considered as evil company. We learn this if you build a relationship with the Quran. But while we talk about all this spirituality, the one area that gets generally neglected in Ramadan is that this is also the opportunity to build the community. As you all know, I've said this before, that strong families, they come from the home. Strong families, they are built within the home, and the community starts at the masjid. When we look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how he taught us and what he taught us, that we should stand up for community, stand up for people's rights. This is not something that came later on into Islam. This came even before Islam also. When we study the story of Harb al-Fijar in the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we study about Hilf al-Fudul, this teaches us about community, bringing people together, standing up for people's rights. And then after that, when you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ in itself, how he was able to create that bond within the Sahaba. And this unique bond was reinforced at the time of Hijrah, when the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, the Muhajirun, they made Hijrah to Medina, and the Prophet ﷺ, he created this bond between the Ansar and the Muhajirun. This unique bond. And then not only that, but then even throughout the Medina era, there are different stories, and there were surahs that were revealed, that what can we do to really build and make our community stronger. When we study Surah Al-Hujurat, the surah that comes after Surah Al-Fatah, and the surah that comes before Surah Qaf in the 26 juz, Surah Al-Hujurat from beginning to end is all about how to build and how to make sure that your community is unified. When we study the story of Salman al-Farsi radiallahu anhu, that what journey he took upon himself to find Islam, a long journey that he had taken upon himself just to find Islam. And when he did find Islam, what was the Prophet ﷺ able to do for him? That he got all the Sahaba together, and he asked Salman initially, that how much is your freedom? How much can you buy your freedom for? He informed the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet of Allah, he did not just arrange the money himself, but he told all the Sahaba that all of you need to now pitch in. All of you are a community, and now a new member of the community wants to be part. A new member wants to be part of this community. You should welcome him, and the best way to welcome him is that you buy his freedom. The Prophet ﷺ, he welcomed these people. Now the month of Ramadan is coming. We have, throughout the entire year, here at the Masjid, we have potluck nights, we have barbecues, we have events, but all these events, they only bring out those people who generally come to the Masjid. When you have any of these events, you will generally see the same old faces over and over again. You will not see the new faces. There's only one time during that year where those brothers and sisters, they come out of their sort of, I would like to call it hibernation, and they come into, they show their faces, and they come into the masjid, and that is the only time of the year is the month of Ramadan. You can create any event at the masjid, those new faces will not come. The only time those new faces will show up is only Ramadan. Now, it is not their fault that they're not coming. It is our fault that we have not welcomed them into our community. It is our fault that we have not shown them that the masjid is a home for you also. When you come to the masjid, we will welcome you also. So the most important thing to keep in mind is that while Ramadan is here, and is right here, we have to make sure that while we are at the masjid, if you see a new brother or sister that you have never seen before, go and make salam to that person. Go and just greet that person. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, sister, assalamu alaikum. I've never seen you at the masjid. Who are you? Where have you come from? Build that relationship. Generally in Ramadan, what has been seen is that people are always within their own friend circles. Brothers will be standing outside within their own friend circles. Sisters will be sitting in their own section within their own friend circles. And you have a brother and sister who has never come to the masjid, or they come to the masjid for the very first time and they do something at a masjid which is inappropriate. I understand, it might be inappropriate. But how the people would react to that? Everyone begins to yell at them. Everyone's giving them the dirty looks. Everyone is talking about them. This is not what a Muslim community is about. This is against the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we see a new brother and sister, I have met brothers and sisters who don't come to a masjid. When I ask them why you don't come to a masjid, because they tell me that in Ramadan they came because Ramadan is Ramadan. But when I came for Ramadan, no one would make salam to me. No one would reach out to me. No one even asked me who I was, what my name is, where have I come from. And they said, you know what, masjid is not the place for me. I would rather go somewhere else where I can be recognized. I don't need to come to the masjid. When people come to masjid and they misbehave, children are going to come. They will make noise. I'm telling you from now, they will make noise. Children are children. But what is the responsibility of the people at the masjid is that we have to, sometimes that hint of anger can come. That frustration will be there. But we have to continue to work at it. When these kids come and they make a racket in the masjid, nicely explain to them. Tell them you go outside. When people are doing things which are unorthodox for doing at the masjid, then just simply explain to them that this is not right. But we will see this happening. You will find people who are coming to the masjid who have children who are disabled, who may be making noises because of their disability. They're special needs children. And everyone gives them that stare, and that mother and that father, they are so uncomfortable that they don't want to come back to the masjid. This is not what a community is. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, no matter who that person was, he was welcome within the community. Bilal radiallahu anhu, because of his color, he was an outcast in the community. The Prophet ﷺ made him part of the community. He gave him the most prestigious position in the entire community, and he made him the mu'adhin. On the other hand, you have a person who was blind, Abdullah ibn Maktoum radiallahu anhu, that he cannot even see. At that time, they never had watches. They would have to look at the sky and the position of the sun to determine when to give adhan. Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he is given the responsibility of giving the adhan. By who? By none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That shows us that what community meant to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what community meant to the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, and the month of Ramadan is there to build that community. Not only to just enhance our spirituality, but to build and to reinforce the sense of community. If I see a brother and sister, go and take their number. And so that if you don't see them after Ramadan, you can call that brother again or that sister again and say, brother, sister, I don't see you after Ramadan. Because Ramadan is not the only time of the year when we have made a commitment to Allah. We have made a commitment to Allah throughout the entire year, throughout our entire life. So that's why this is something that I want all of you to take upon yourselves. If you see that there's something wrong in the masjid, like the story that we hear about the man who came and he urinated inside the masjid. It was something which was completely against the adab and the etiquette of a masjid. The Prophet ﷺ never scolded that person. He just called him. He didn't get the message across. Don't get me wrong. He never just said, okay, just let the person go. He did get the message across, but in a very respectful way. And that's the way we need to do it. So this is something that I hope we can all build upon. We can, inshallah, use the month of Ramadan to build that love within our community, to build that unity within our community. If you know that there's a new brother and sister in your community, and you are inviting some people for iftar over at your home, invite that brother and sister, so that they can feel like that they're part of the community also. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us the ability to act upon what has been said and heard. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'an al-azim. ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله اما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القران المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ان الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا ايها الذين امنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اما بعد, before I do continue, please do come forward. We have a lot of brothers, also the sisters also. Please make sure you come forward. Brothers, please try to make. I know we've already asked you to come forward. Try to make any space as you can for the brothers who are standing in the back. Respected brothers and sisters, there's another matter that I would like to use this opportunity to clarify, and something that we will generally make announcements during Ramadan, but there's always been some confusion and some areas where it is not clear as to in regards to this matter. And the matter is that it is regards to Zakatul Fitr, or you call it Sadaqatul Fitr, or you call it Fitra, whatever you want to call it. There's a hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu that's in Abu Dawood, the Sunnah Abu Dawood, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that why do you need to give sadaqah? What's the purpose of Zakat al-Fitr? There are two main purposes. Number one is that just like in Salat, if we make a mistake, then we perform sujood al-sahwa at the end of Salat to compensate for that mistake. Likewise, all the mistakes and all the shortcomings that has been done during Ramadan and during our fasting, that Zakat al-Fitr, it compensates for all that. Number two is that it provides for those who don't have money, for example, the poor and the needy. And during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's a hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, where he talks about that. What did the Prophet tell us to bring? What was the fitrah at that time? And the hadith mentioned one saw, and the word saw in the hadith is a unit of measurement, which was generally used by the Arabs at that time. But the Prophet ﷺ said that bring one saw of wheat, of barley, one saw of dates, and he said the half saw of wheat or barley. So the thing is that at the time of Ali radiallahu anhu, when the House of Affairs did transfer over to Basra and to Iraq, at that time when Ali radiallahu anhu, he went there and he saw that the people were very, very rich there, he changed the rule from that everything should be one saw. So barley one saw, wheat one saw, everything should be one saw. Now in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we don't ever find that the Prophet sallallahu said that you give the equal value of money for the fitrah. There's not a single hadith. Why? Because at that time there were many, many poor people. You could just give, if you gave one saw to a needy person or to a poor person, it was sufficient for them, they could use it. However, nowadays, if I go to a needy person and I give them one saw or a handful of wheat, I ask you, what in the world will they do with that handful of wheat? I ask you, they can't do nothing with that. So our times have changed. We're not drifting away from the Quran and the Sunnah. The ulama have mentioned that you are allowed to compensate that with the value of money. So that's why nowadays you see that no one tells you to give wheat anymore, or dates anymore, or barley anymore. They tell you to give whatever the fitrah is, whether it's $11, $12, $13, whatever it may be. So that's number one I want to clarify. Number two is that during the time of Rasulullah, what we learned from the Prophet of Allah is that he would always encourage the Sahaba to start giving fitrah at the 28th of Ramadan. Why? Because after 29th, if the moon is sighted, the next day will be Eid. So the Prophet ﷺ, he would generally push the Sahaba to give it earlier, and it was easy at that time to distribute. Why? Because the poor people were everywhere. Now, even in our back home countries, you will see a lot of people, they give their fitrah on the way going to Eid. And that is the most important thing, is that the fitrah has to be given before Eid. Now, that does not mean that before Eid means that on the day of Eid, before the Salatul Eid. It means that it can be given any time throughout the entire Ramadan, because that is also before Eid. So in our back home countries, people, they go out, they're headed towards the Eid Salat, and on the way you have you have beggars, you have the poor people, the needy people, and it is very easy that you can just go to all of them. You know how much zakat al-fitr you have to give, you can just hand it out, it is very sufficient, it's very easy. However, in our situation, in this country, living in this country, things are a little different. Things are a little different. It is not easy for everyone, just, people come on the day of Eid and they drop it. Now, for those people who come on the day of Eid and they drop their money here, I ask you, I want you to think about this. How in the world do you expect anyone to distribute that money and make sure that your money, which you are giving right before Salatul Eid, ends up in the hands of a needy and poor person or someone who deserves that money? There is no possible way. There is absolutely no possible way. That's why the Masjid, they encourage and they push the community to start giving your fitrah earlier. Now, no matter what happens, I'm using this time in the khutbah to mention this, but I know for a fact, I hate to be negative, but I know for a fact that despite giving this khutbah, there are people who are going to come on the day of Eid, and they're still going to give it. And remember one thing, because you gave your zakat al-fitr on the day of Eid, there's a high probability that your money is going to be only considered as sadaqah and not zakat al-fitr, because the money cannot go into the hands of a needy person. So that's why from the beginning of Ramadan, we're going to push the entire community that please make sure that you give your fitrah early on. You give your fitrah early on so that before Eid, now think about this, Allah, for most of you sitting over here, Allah has blessed you. Okay, Allah has blessed you. You have a house, you have food to eat, you have so many ni'mats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And think about this. Imagine they were in your position and you were in their position. Wouldn't you want the money to come to you before Eid? Absolutely. They have a heart too, respected brothers and sisters. Those needy people and poor people, they have a heart just like you. They have children just like you. They wish they could live in a house like the house that you are living in right now. And they deserve this money. They deserve this money. This is their haqq. It is not a favor we're doing for them. This is their haqq. This is their right. And us coming on the day of Eid and giving on the day of Eid, there is no possible way they will get that money. And they'll be deprived from that money. So that's why please make sure that during the month of Ramadan, you have many, many days, make it a point, put it in your phone, whatever you need to do, how you function, but make sure you give your zakat al-fitr or your sadaqat al-fitr or fitrah before the 25th of Ramadan, so that the money can be distributed to the poor. Now, just a few more things I want to mention in regards to Ramadan is that in Ramadan, as you all know, that alhamdulillah, many people that come to the masjid. It's always very packed. We have many people that come. During the month of Ramadan, here at Epic, we have teams and we have responsibilities handed out to everyone. People come to the masjid, and this is not everyone. You find those minor cases. But you have some people in the community that they feel like that they're doing a favor to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're doing a favor to the people if they come to the masjid. So they will come to the masjid and they will park based on their own discretion. Someone will tell them that, brother, please go and park over there. Like, no, I don't want you. because I donate to this masjid. You don't donate to this masjid so that you have the authority over this masjid. You donate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't donate because you can come to the masjid and say, you know what, this is mine, I can do this, I can do that. None of us can do that in the house of Allah. This is the house of Allah. And keep that in mind. This is not my house. You want to establish those rules and you want to establish that authority at home, do that at your own home. Don't do that at the masjid. You come to a masjid, be humble when you come to the masjid. You're a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep that in mind. Have that sense in your mind also. When I come to a masjid, if someone tells me, please don't do this, then do not get upset, just follow the rules. And you know what happens a lot of times is that, I'm going to say this outright and bluntly, is that a lot of us are crybabies, honestly. Okay? A lot of us are crybabies in a lot of cases. Oh, he said this to me 10 years ago. Get over it. You are men. You are Muslims. Get over it. Seriously, don't be crybabies. He said this to me 5 years ago. And that day he said, shut up to me. Really? Seriously? When I hear these stories, the first thing that comes to my mind is that kid needs to go to daycare. Or that guy needs to go to daycare. We are coming here to masjid, let it go. Let it go for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If someone comes in and tells you and you have some history with that person, keep that as history. Right now you follow the rules. If there's a person who's in charge, if someone from the board member comes to me and says, brother, please don't do this, follow their rules. If someone who's in charge in the parking lot tells you, do not park here and park here, follow the rules. These people are not being paid. They're giving time from their own precious time for the community. And we should appreciate that. We should appreciate that. Our board members, they don't get paid a single penny, yet they work so diligently day in and day out. You should appreciate them for that. Our volunteers, you should appreciate them for that. So that's why this is just something that I really wanted to mention, that Ramadan is coming. Let's learn what are the adab of the masjid. When we come to the masjid, follow the rules. If someone is rude with us, that's different. If someone is rude with you, now I want to be clear. If someone is rude with you, then make sure you inform the higher authority, which is the board members. Inform them about it, but do not take matters into your own hand. Some people, they come, they see children making noise, and then, parents